Hey guys, what's up? So let me ask you something. What if your struggles with weight have very little to do with food or willpower? What if the real reason you've gained and lost weight over and over and over again is because of trauma you've never really dealt with? This is not an easy conversation, but it is one we need to have because so many people, especially women, carry not just extra pounds, but also the weight of old wounds. And until we face those wounds, no diet, no program, not even a GLP medication alone is going to fix what's really going on underneath. Hi, I'm Jules, and if you are new to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. I've lost 50 pounds and I have kept it off now for over 2 years. Been on a GLP-1 for almost 3 years at this point, come in the next few weeks. Started in September of 2022. And yes, I am still on weekly shot of a GLP-1. So let's talk about the old narratives that have been driven into us about the mechanisms of weight loss. Most of us are taught that weight loss is really simple, right? Eat less, move more. Calories in, calories out. And yes, biology matters. Trust me, I know. But what if every time you tried to get healthy, your old coping mechanisms pull you right back down? So here's the truth. Trauma and mental health can load the gun that fires off a lifetime of weight struggles. Food becomes a shield, a way to regulate emotions. And when nothing feels safe, that's our regulation. That's our comfort. And unless we talk about it, we are just going to repeat this cycle over and over again. There's actually a lot of science behind this. The Adverse Childhood Experience Study, or better known as the ACEs study, it has shown that the trauma that someone experiences early in life is correlated to a higher risk for things like obesity, diabetes, depression, and even early death. One analysis found that women who experienced childhood sexual abuse were 34% more likely to become obese later in life. Other studies have shown that physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, growing up in a chaotic, toxic household increases this risk. Why? Because trauma changes how our brains work. It changes how our hormones work. When you grow up in a fight or flight mode, your cortisol can get dysregulated. Your appetite hormones can go haywire. And food becomes one of the fastest ways to self-soothe. Just like someone can turn to alcohol or drugs, many of us turn to food. And in the moment, it works, right? It actually works. It calms us down, numbs the pain. It gives us some comfort and joy. But long term, it creates a very destructive cycle that only adds more shame, more stress, more sadness. So let me get personal with you and tell you a little bit about my backstory. I grew up in a household with, yes, I won the lotto on this one, 2 narcissistic parents. Double whammy. Yay me. My childhood was filled with anxiety, instability, and emotional stress. And as the youngest of 3, I quite often felt a bit lost in the chaos. At around the age of 15, 16 years old, I was a competitive gymnast. I didn't need to go on a diet. I was already in shape, very toned, strong. But I do remember announcing to my mom that I was going to join Weight Watchers, as my big sister did. And instead of her saying, you know, honey, you're fine the way you are, I'm not sure why you feel the need to do that, she encouraged me. She basically said, oh, this will be a great way for you to get some control over what you eat. So that moment definitely planted the seed. It was the beginning of decades of crazy eating around foods, hormones, self-worth, self-love. My mom was slim. She was never overweight, but she was always dieting, always restricting. I grew up where she had these like diet aids, these diet, I don't know, drugs that she would hide, which I knew where they were. So I grew up thinking that this was a normal way for women to eat and to be and to act. But here's the kicker. What you see as a kid, that becomes your normal. And if your normal is toxic, you don't know what healthy even looks like. So when I hit my 20s, I was not in the best mental place. I didn't even know what good even looked like. So of course, I attracted a partner who was also toxic. Yes, I married a narcissist because that's what I knew. Because that was the only type of relationship that I thought I deserved, and it was what was comfortable, and it was what I was accustomed to. That was my normal. And that lasted 18 years. And through those years, my weight went up, it went down, it was all over the place. My body basically became a reflection of the emotional chaos that was going on. I tried to build healthy boundaries with food, but I didn't yet have the tool set to really know what was the right coping mechanisms and what were the healthy boundaries to have. But eventually I hit a breaking point, and I realized that I was not setting the type of example for my children that I wanted them to see. I did not want them growing up thinking that being treated poorly was normal. I instead chose courage. I chose divorce. And I chose to be alone rather than stay with the wrong person. And that was the beginning of me rewriting my story. So here's something that doesn't get talked about enough when people are losing weight. And that is all of the emotions that have been buried inside of us, the emotions that we have been using food as our coping mechanism. They don't just disappear. They will come bubbling back up again, and it can feel terrifying. This is why I say therapy is like gym for the brain. I've been in therapy for years because I knew that I had to sort out what is healthy versus toxic, what should be normal, what are healthy boundaries. And when you grow up in a dysfunction, very toxic place, it feels comfortable. Healthy feels uncomfortable, at least initially. And I had to learn how to retrain myself and my brain and my expectations and so many things. And it took a lot of practice. It took years before I even got to the place where I was ready to jump on a GLP-1. It's like a muscle. You have to keep training it, building mental resilience and facing that pain, writing about it, talking it through, setting those boundaries, truly knowing inside what my self-worth was, learning new and different coping mechanisms, healthy coping mechanisms. So today, my coping looks like working out, nourishing myself with good whole foods, vegetables and protein, and surrounding myself, very importantly, with healthy, and supportive people. It looks nothing like the way I coped 20, 30 years ago. And here comes the GLP-1 connection, okay? So let me talk about that, because there is another layer to all of this that's happened. So all of that kind of set the stage, but now comes the biology. So for decades, my hormones were so dysregulated by trauma, stress, and no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much willpower I had, I just couldn't figure out how to lose and then maintain the weight loss in a healthy way. And when I started on the GLP-1, it literally was like flipping a light switch. For the first time, I could see clearly. I knew this wasn't just about willpower. It really, really was about biology. So the trauma and the stress, they load the gun, but the biology just kept firing away. And I decided I am going to stay on a GLP-1 indefinitely, because I know my body at this point. I know my history, and I know what it will take for me to stay healthy long term. But here's the point. The medication alone is not enough. If you don't heal the trauma, if you don't heal what happened in the past and face it and relearn healthy ways to cope through stress and anxiety and deal with those emotional layers, you're going to keep repeating the same cycles. I knew that I would just keep on repeating those same cycles again, and I would not be moving forward. I would not be growing. Food would always then, or weight would just control my life. So I had to face these things so that I could learn something different, let go, and know that this weight will stay off of me. So if you're losing weight and suddenly you have all these emotions and memories and traumas start to come up, guess what? You're normal. You're so normal. This is what happens when you use food to numb out some of that pain and trauma. So my encouragement is this: don't push it back down. Write it out, talk it out, share it with someone safe. Learn to set good boundaries. Learn to set good boundaries with food, with people, with yourself. And this is in all relationships and is really important with people, whether that's your significant other, your immediate family, your children, your coworkers. Healthy boundaries are not about restriction. They're about freedom. And there's boundaries around food as well. This whole eat anything and everything in moderation, that doesn't work for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me. I know there are certain foods that are going to trigger me. There are certain people that are going to trigger me. So I have to set healthy boundaries around that. And that's okay. Because it is, again, I'm not being restrictive. I just know myself. And you have to know yourself in order to set those boundaries around whatever may trigger you. So if this video resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with a friend, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, leave a comment. Have you noticed any emotions come bubbling up during your weight loss journey as you're losing weight, as you're looking at yourself in the mirror or pictures, videos, or I don't know, people comment? And have you seen any connection between any past traumas or stresses and your eating patterns? And if you have, again, you're not alone. There's many, many people in very similar situations, probably more and the majority than you think. It's just not really being talked about. And we deal with the issues and we face them head on, then we don't fear them anymore. Then we can put them to rest. We can lower our anxiety and our stress levels, which can be a big contributor to the weight gain. And we can actually let it go. The weight can come off and we can grow as people. So that's why I encourage these conversations, because for me, this is years and decades in the making. This is something I've been working on for so long, and it will be something I'm going to continue to work on for the rest of my life because it's always there in the background. And mental health and fitness and long-term health, it's all about healing and getting to a better place. So remember, it's never about perfection. It's always about facing what's holding us back, choosing to move forward one step at a time. I will see you in my next video. Stay strong.